University of Pretoria, and I am thrilled to be on this call and to be presenting a project called the Masterclasses, which are conversations that we'll be having to uplift our alumni, especially to help you excel in your field of work in the corporate space. And obviously, as you know, that African Careers Network is one of the partners that's supporting the Mastercard Foundation, the Mastercard Foundation Scholars Program. And some of you might be familiar with their work, but we're collaborating on this project with them. And with that being said, allow me to introduce Lois Ninaba, who is working with ACN, been able to work with her over the last couple of years. And in her role presently, she's a university partner engagement lead and also worked a lot with early career success at ACN. So she's the right person to help us to figure out how we can do well in our careers. So Lois, welcome to the call. You're more than welcome just to greet everybody if you wish to.
Thank you, Lennox. Hi, everyone. It's great to see you all here. I know we are going to have a fantastic session ahead. And as Lennox says, it's the first of many. So yeah, enjoy, get your notebooks out, because I know there's going to be a lot of incredible knowledge dropped today. Pleasure to be here.
Incredible. Thanks, Lois. And yeah, we get straight to it. Very excited today because we got one of our alumni from the University of Pretoria who's going to share his story, and thereafter we'll hear from our keynote speaker. But it's just, I think, important for me just to give a bit of context behind their stories and what they've been able to achieve. Perhaps I'll start with our keynote speaker. Her name is Duwa Mutharika. She's an executive and leadership coach. She's our keynote speaker today. And, her stuff has been growth focused and solution driven leader who's got a lot of an impeccable record of developing and growing businesses through performance-based coaching and mentoring within fast-paced environments across Africa. So a lot of us and a lot of our work is probably in Africa. So it's great to have her joining us to share what she's learned over the last couple of years. And of course, our first speaker today, who is our alumni speaker, is none other than Dennis Richgates. He's working as an economist presently, and he is an analyst in the human development practice at Genesis Analysts. If you don't know about Genesis Analysts, it's the largest economic-based consultancy in Africa. So we're really lucky to hear his perspective on what he's learned in a moment. And he holds a Master of Commerce from the University of Pretoria's economics faculty. So yeah, it's good to have him on the call, and he will pave the way for us this afternoon. Dennis, the floor is yours. You can go ahead.
Thanks, Lennox, for that kind introduction.
Scholar Hubs and
okay, I thought I was hearing someone speaking. Yeah, thanks, Lennox, once again for that kind introduction. Due to some connectivity issues, I'm going to keep my camera off, but I hope that will be fine. Yeah, thanks, Lennox, once again for the kind introductions. My name is Dennis, and as many of you may know, I am an alumni from the University of Pretoria. I've been a Mastercard scholar previously, and I left UP just last year. So it's not long that I've been out of there. For those of you that may know, I joined UP through Mastercard Foundation Scholars Program back in 2018 at the age of 25 as an undergraduate student. So a lot of the people that I was in class with, I felt significantly older than them, but it was nonetheless a great experience. Today, I just want to briefly share my experience at UP and then how that has led me to where I am currently at Genesis Analytics. And I hope that you'll find some of the insights useful. So as I said, I joined UP in 2018. I did my undergraduate in economics. The goal was really to do economics all the way because it's one of the subjects that I felt that I've always had great interest in. And at the age of 25, the goal was really to go there and kill it as fast as I could. But as you may all know, UP may not allow you just to kill it. So lots of hurdles, challenges along the way. But nonetheless, I managed to complete my master's. So I managed to obtain 3 degrees in the space of 5 years. And I really don't want to go into a lot of detail of my experiences in the different degrees I did. But I think most importantly, what I thought I learned a lot, the stage in which I learned a lot was my master's experience. So as someone like Michael I see in the call may know, master's at UP is designed to be ideally 2 years or minimum of 1.5 years. And but I went in with the goal of doing it in 1 year. So that was a lot of press already. But because I'd set myself certain goals that I wanted to achieve, which was informed by some of the questions I'd been asking, where do I want to see myself? How do I transition from university to the working environment? What are some of the best strategies I can possibly employ to ensure that I start my life after UP on a good foot? So all of those questioning led me to some decisions which involved working while studying. So I took up a teaching assistant role at the Department of Economics. The idea was really to gain some experience in teaching and also some of the communication and interpersonal relations skills that come along with that. But on top of that, I also got this internship at Genesis Analytics. And that was probably took 50% of my time, my master's time on it, because it was one of the most challenging internships that I probably did, but rewarding nonetheless. So the idea was really to cast a wide net such that by the time I left that department, I left UP, I had sort of a leg to stand on when I was out there in the job market. And I can't say that it was easy. It wasn't. I had to make lots of trade-offs, lots of sacrifices, because doing an internship at an organization that, first of all, hires globally, you're working with people from some of the greatest universities around the world, from MIT, Oxford, Harvard, UCT, UP, whatever, you name it. So an intellectually charged environment where there's a lot of technically challenging work that you have to do with high-level clients. So that was already a huge challenge for me, but I suppose I was brave to take that step, but do that whilst also being a teaching assistant. So a lot of what I had to do was really to make a lot of trade-offs along the way. So one of which was sacrificing some of the things that I would usually prioritize when I only studied, like Marx, for example. So I realized that I had to now be okay with getting 70s somehow from what would usually be an 85 or maybe 90. I was willing to accommodate that because I knew that the difference or the gain that I'd have from working while studying would sort of balance it out at the end of the day. But through it all, I managed to complete my master's in 1 year by the end of November last year, and yeah, I passed very well. I didn't fail, so that was something, but I managed to pass. And I think that lots of what I learned, particularly, I think, from my master's experience was that I could do the things that I normally thought I couldn't if I pushed myself to the limit, because there are times when I exhausted myself to the point where it almost felt like I had less time than other people, right? So I learned that if I post myself and I clearly articulated why I was making such choices, taking on such responsibilities and difficult tasks, understanding why I was doing that in the first place, made the stress and suffering at UP worthwhile, if I may put it that way. So I think that in the end, it has to be worthwhile, that the sacrifices you make, the trade-offs you make have to sort of really justify the choices that you make. So that was a useful lesson that I thought I learned from there. And one of the things that maybe I can speak to also during my time at UP was that the networks that I built at UP, for example, were really helpful. I built networks. I was very intentional in networking with people that I understood could support my development and my progress, both emotionally, physically, psychologically, and academically in the end. And so that really helped in the process. So it was good to that was willing and able to support and sometimes guide me during that process. So being intentional about networks was a very great realization that I had at UP, that I think up to now I see it being as useful. But not to mention really the platforms and the opportunities that existed, particularly provided by Mastercard Foundation. And I want to speak particularly about ACN, Africa Careers Network, because I got that internship opportunity, first of all, through the Africa Careers Network portal. So that's something for whoever is interested in really getting work afterwards to be keen on that, really utilize the resources that are there to aid you in your achieving your objectives. So I managed to get that internship, which was ideally supposed to be 6 months, but I worked, I don't want to say only hard, but yes, hard, but also smart during my internship period, that Genesis Analytics asked to extend my internship until I finished my master's degree. They said they didn't care if my master's was taking 2 years or 1 year, but they wanted me to continue working as an intern with them until I finished my master's. So I think the diligence and also just getting work done, like when you get some work, you actually get some work done and do it well, was really instrumental in them deciding to finally give me a permanent position, because towards the end of my master's was when they immediately gave me my permanent position to work, and so that set me up to transition smoothly out of UP without having to come to Kampala here in Uganda and looking for a job becoming another job, which is a common phrase here that anyone that is from Uganda here may be familiar with. So I think the strategy of really getting work experience, internship, and making sure I performed well at it with the aim of potentially transitioning to work full-time paid off in the end. And so here at Genesis Analytics, for those of you that don't know, probably most of you don't know, is a global African consultancy headquartered in Johannesburg, in Sandton, but with offices in London, in Nairobi, Nigeria, Canada, Middle East, and with employees from all over the world. So essentially, I was asked to choose where I wanted to work. My decision in where I wanted to work was sort of in sync with the objectives or goals I'd set for myself, which was to say, much as there are certain things that I may want to, that I may be better positioned to attain elsewhere, I thought it would be more productive for me to work from Uganda or from home for various reasons that I won't go into right now. But I want to say that at Genesis, for me, the strategy has, first of all, been learning as much as possible since I'm at the beginning of my career. So that means going in or coming in without putting so much pressure on myself to want to saw that, oh, I know this, I know that, I can do that. But it's to say that it's okay if I don't know, to ask for help, to ask questions, as many questions as possible, to really learn as much as possible, and to gain a great deal of technical expertise in the fields or in the areas that I'm working in, such that way I can take the next step of my career, having laid that solid foundation. So I would say here, being able to interact with seniors and other peers across the board and being open to new challenges and building useful networks with the clients that I work with, be it from the World Bank, or African Union, or UNICEF, or other stakeholders, has been very, very fruitful, in the sense that sometimes you interact with clients that almost want to poach you from the company to work for them already. So I think building relationships and being intentional about that, and also doing your work when you presented with opportunity and doing it well, has given me a good start here at Genesis. And also setting an objective, really, to say, I'm going to start by learning and then advance from there and work out the specific details of whether I want promotion in the next performance review or things like that, and what I have to do to attain that with my line managers. All of those strategies are things that I'm considering. But those are some of the things that I can share with you right now. But based on, given that there isn't so much time, I don't want to bore all of you too much with my stories. But yeah, so that's what I want to stop here for the moment. But if you have any other questions, specific questions relating to UP or Genesis or any other thing, you're welcome to ask me afterwards. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thanks, Dennis. Appreciate it. Yeah, you can also, as our speakers are speaking, just pop a question in the chat box. I'll be tracking those questions, and we'll be able to help you to get the questions asked towards the end of the session. But yeah, Dennis, thanks. I think I like the fact that you spoke about working hard, but also working smart, and using some of the lessons you've learned in academia, some of those key skills of discipline, working hard, now working well in your current job. So really excited about that. And we certainly wish you like the very best with your journey at Genesis and wherever you decide to sort of go. But if you just joined, perhaps as Dennis was speaking, he's the alumni speaker for today. And yeah, as you heard from him, he completed from his master's from the University of Pretoria, and we got to hear a bit about his story. We're also recording this, so we'll also upload it on YouTube a little bit later in case you missed parts of his early conversation if you joined a little bit later. But to our keynote speaker today, which is Duwa Mutharika, she typically speaks about executive coaching, positive psychology. She also talks a lot about emotional intelligence. She speaks a lot about strength-based coaching, public speaking, as you'll hear in a moment, and strongly believes in seeing more women in leadership and empowering them as well in leadership, and believes largely in creating a diversity, equity, and inclusion in the workspace, and really an authentic person who wants to help other people to be authentic leaders and to find essential skills to build their brands and to climb up the ladder, if it were. So without much words, I would like to welcome our keynote speaker, Duwa Mutharika, to address us.
Thank you very much, Lennox. While I'm I'm going to quickly share my screen. So I ask for your patience while I deal with technology. I'm probably revealing my age here as you're seeing me struggle with technology. All right, here we go. So just gonna move this. All right, so good afternoon to you all. I'm so glad to be here today and to have the chance to speak with you about your careers and what that's going to look like for you. So I'm going to start with a little bit about myself. As Lennox said, my name is Duwa Mutharika. I'm a former diplomat, executive, leadership coach, and consultant, a mentor and speaker. And I help women in leadership positions heal and set healthy boundaries so they can show up unapologetically as themselves. A little bit of background about my work. I worked in management at the Malawi Consulate here in South Africa as a Vice Consul of Tourism and Trade. I also, for many years, ran my own newspaper with about 70, my staff was about 70 full-time and about 200 part-time and seasonal workers, etc. And so, yeah, those are some of my highlights of my work experience. I started off in PR for a dance nonprofit in Washington, D.C., and I moved my way up. And I've worked on 2 continents now, but I've lived on 4, I think 3 or 4. Sometimes I forget. So just a little bit of background about me. So I titled this, How to Get Ahead and Keep Your Soul, because it's very important to get ahead, but how do you keep the essence of you? And this is specifically for millennials and a little bit of Gen Z in there. And so I'm going to talk first. I'm going to start with a background, and I'm going to give you some facts about millennials in the workplace. A lot of this, you guys are going to be like, oh yeah, I know this. And some of you will be like, oh, I didn't realize. So it depends on where you look, where they define what millennials are, but it's generally people born between 1982 to like the early 2000s. I myself am a Gen X, very firmly girl of the 90s. And so, yeah, one of the things about millennials is you as millennials are now the largest part of the workforce, okay? And you have very different needs than your predecessors, than your parents, your grandparents, etc. So let's start talking about some of these things before we go to the last point. So as I said, it's loosely defined as people born after 1982 and before 2004. One of the things that defines millennials is they don't want to work for one company for their entire career or even have one career for their entire life, which is very different from, say, the boomers, who you'd get in one good company, Johnson & Johnson, whatever it was, and you worked there for 30 years, or you were a nurse at, Santon Clinic for 40 years, etc. So millennials tend to want to work for companies they care about with similar values. They want work that makes a difference and flexible working hours. They want to learn and grow with mentors that guide them. All these striking differences mean that career advice that worked for older generations may just no longer apply to millennials who want to climb the corporate ladder, but they want to do this on their own terms. So some of the things that weigh heavy are the cost of living and the fact that Deloitte did a global Gen Z and millennial survey. And 1 in 4 millennials across 44 countries say that they are stressed or anxious most of the time at work. So employers have made some progress since pre-pandemic times, but business is still not meeting the expectations for the largest part of their workforce, okay? And another thing that you'll hear about Gen Zs, and this may touch a chord, but people say this a lot, oh, Gen Zs, they're lazy, they're entitled, they're glued to their iPhones. However, that's not true. Recent Gallup surveys said that they're more aligned, Gen Zs are more aligned with other generations when it comes to contentment than previously thought. So we all want the same thing, which is to be content at work. And millennials are also the driving force behind workplace change, although they unsurprisingly have the lowest amount of engagement as employees. But they are advocates. They are major advocates for change, and that helps how all generations work. And so, because we all want our employees to be happy and productive at work. So this means that people aged 25 to 35 are changing their jobs about every 2.5 years. They're not scared to change jobs. They want a salary boost when they change that job. They want to work with a purpose and approach a role in a company with a highly defined set of expectations. And they want all the perks. They're willing to get jobs to change them, to have a juice bar, on-site gyms, pet-friendly offices, remote work, things we never even thought of when I was starting in the workplace. And although they are willing to change jobs, they do want stability and job security. And some of this comes from talking to their managers often. So they're not going to wait for a yearly review, but want constant feedback and frequent informal check-ins so that things can be corrected and enhanced in real time. They also want flexibility in when and where they work. So some of these expectations are even more pronounced for the tech-savvy Gen Z or TikTok generation. And this generation is reported not having a basic social need met. And this is by far the largest of every generation. So something's wrong with the system, we can say. But one of the things that's really amazing when you do the research about millennials in the workforce is they are reshaping the workforce, okay? So you are driving the change because you are value-driven digital natives, okay? So research as far back as 2015 actually has shown that the annual performance review is dead. It's time-consuming. It has zero correlation to actual business results. And millennial managers prefer regular, consistent feedback in the form of frequent check-ins and project-based assessment. This is basically about being agile. This is the term we always hear, agility. It's the reiterative progress, where you have one cycle, you get feedback for that cycle, you move on to the next cycle. So in the workplace, there's more of a favoring of weekly or bi-weekly one-on-one meetings, making it easier to course correct. And millennials are, of course, more comfortable with instant communication across a variety of platforms, a lot more tech savvy. They use these channels for feedback, coaching, project management, building teams across geographies and time zones. And they're more likely to hire remote workers. And this is a big issue right now as some offices are calling people back. And the millennial workplace, and the millennial manager, in the workplace is more likely to be collaborative rather than competitive. No one single person has the answers. They will embrace diversity because teams constantly outperform diverse teams constantly outperform homogeneous teams in the term of productivity, decision-making quality, organization especially millennials want to work in a company that reflects their values. That's something that's important. And so, we've especially seen this from the Great Resignation, which shifted powers to employees, making them able to demand changes that help for higher pay, greater action and accountability in DEI and climate change. So, as we've seen here, some of the ways that the workplace is being changed is consistent feedback, virtual management, collaboration over competition, and value-first leadership. So now that I have given that description a little bit about how millennials work, I'm just going to check in here if there's any questions. And I'm also going to ask you, did anybody want to comment about how I've described the workplace for millennials? Does anybody have any comments at the moment? If you say, yeah, it's true, or no, I don't really notice it like that. If there's any comments, you can feel free to put them in, and I'll keep checking the chat group as we go through. All right, so let's get to the bottom of why we're here today. I've given you some background. Now we're going to talk about how to get ahead. Okay, so what is the corporate ladder and how do we climb it? Okay, so the corporate ladder is just what it sounds like. It signifies a progress in an organization from a basic or entry level to the top level, executive levels, through promotions. And unfortunately, it is deemed hard to climb because there's a limited amount of mid and high level management positions available. So to advance your career, basically we're saying that, and to reach your dream position, you'll need to progress professionally climbing the corporate ladder. People climb the corporate ladder for many reasons. They climb for higher salaries, acquire more impressive job titles, take on new challenges, and be more fulfilled. So a Gallup survey in the US said that only 1/3 of employees are engaged at work. And the pandemic prompted many people to reevaluate the role work plays in their lives. So how do we climb the corporate ladder, as we said here? First, you've got to set career goals. And Dennis talked about this. Have a blueprint. Make a long-term career blueprint or career map where you identify your specific goals, looking at the bigger picture. Okay, and the bigger picture is the end, in terms of what do you want your legacy in your life to have said. Determine the greater milestones you want to meet. Write down what you imagine to be the bigger steps. There's something about writing things down that makes it real. And then define the smaller steps that you need to take and break them into short-term goals. These are the 1-year goals, the 6-month goals. Set some performance goals with your manager for short and long term, and prioritize professional development. This means take up all the opportunities. Dennis spoke about this. Take up all of the opportunities, the training, the additional online education, the formal classes, the seminars or mentorship. Take up those opportunities to be seen, okay? Another thing I agree with Dennis is to work smarter to climb faster. You need to work hard. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be hard, but you also need to work smart and make every hour count. So find ways to save time on things that could be time wasting, like sorting through 100 emails. Find ways to use your time more efficiently at work. Another thing to think about is to think and act a level above. So start thinking, if you are a team member, start thinking and acting like a team leader. Okay, so it's not just about you executing the task, it's about you also initiating the tasks. Okay, so you're going to need to strive for excellence. You need to work hard, have a can-do attitude, seek feedback, note your strengths and weaknesses. Be not just a go-getter, but also the go-to person where people can trust you. And then you've got to think about aligning your efforts with the company goals. And this starts from when you're even choosing the company that you're going to work with. You've got to make sure that it aligns with the things you want to achieve. So you've got to stay up to date with the company's strategies and goals as they may change, and try to align your efforts with these goals, or ask your company how you can align your work with the direction they are going in. And this will make your work stronger and more effective. You're going to need to communicate your ambition. And I know this is scary in the workplace, but you're going to need to be vocal with management about what you want to do and how you want to grow. People are not automatically going to know you want the promotion, or people are not automatically going to know you want to grow. So you're going to need to be able to communicate this. Talk to them about if you have a trusted manager or mentor, talk to them about your blueprint. If you have an ally or a sponsor at your workplace, and keep learning. Employers are more likely to consider employees for promotion that show leadership ability and want to learn constantly. Also become an expert at something. Be the person who understands how to do something that they can rely on you. This is what I said earlier about be the go-to person. And if necessary, you may need to move. If a company doesn't have your growth opportunities that you desire, move on and try to find a higher level position elsewhere. You can pay attention to startups and rapidly growing companies for greatest possibility of quick advancement. Or you may need to stay and invest your time and invest in the company and really work on your work ethic, collaboration and teamwork, stepping up when leadership opportunities come forward, maintaining a professional and positive demeanor during all interactions with everyone, be punctual for everyday work, meetings, and functions. This is a huge one. I'd like to just say here right now, there's no such thing as African time. That only works in social settings. In the business world, you gotta show up, and you gotta show up on time and fully understand the mission, values, and goals of the company, okay? So things to do to climb faster, even if the odds seem against you, even if you feel like I'm in this company and I'm an only, whether it's I'm an only woman, whether I'm the only person of color, whether I'm the only man, whatever it is you feel that is othering you, even if things seem against you, there are ways to move forward, okay? So number one, be reliable. Deliver results with consistency. You can't be a superstar one week and then the next week you're falling off the map. You've got to be consistent. Reliable people build confidence among customers, board members, staff, managers, the people that matter, okay? Get noticed by the right people. It's not enough to just work hard. You think I'm gonna work so hard, and then guess what? I'm gonna get a promotion and whatever. Doesn't always work that way. And that can be so crushing for you. So the right people need to know how wonderful you are. Your boss needs to know how wonderful you are, because your boss has control over your visibility and your success. Collaborate with your boss to achieve their and the company's objectives, as well as yours. There's some people that you can kind of catch onto the star. They're called fast track careerists, and they usually have powerful sponsors who guide them through their lives. These sponsors have influence and connects you to open doors and valuable opportunities. So you've got to be quite shrewd in who you latch onto and be decisive. There are going to be times where you have the time to really mull over a decision, but there are going to be other times where you need to make decisions with speed and conviction, okay? The corner office that on the 26th floor or whatever means you can't sweat every single decision and get bogged down with analysis paralysis. You're going to have to move fast with high quality decision-making with the right amount of data and your instincts. You can also brainstorm with a trusted colleague or talk to your mentor, but faster decision-making is achieved by simplifying the complex. Break things down to the lowest denominator, okay? And sometimes you may have to agree, you may have to disagree with the decisions that's being made, but it's the best one. You may in theory disagree with it, but it's the best one for the company, so you're gonna get behind it. So you've got to also make that type of decision. Even if it's not your win, it's a win for the company. And then embrace change, envision what is possible. You need to believe in yourself in times of change. Combine this self-confidence with self-awareness. Do assessments to understand how you're showing up, like the 360-degree feedback. So it's gonna ask you what you think of you. It's gonna ask your coworkers, your management, and you can, if some 360, even you can ask a spouse or a partner, etc. Just so you see a clear picture of who you are and how you're showing up, because that's going to be very important for your leadership journey. All right, so pillars of success, how to make yourself valuable. 1, be a good team player. Besides working on tasks, you got to work on your relationships. Supporting and mentoring coworkers is necessary. Teamwork means more work will get done and it will be of higher quality. You've got to be generous. Stay honest and communicate openly. face challenges, and celebrate your wins together. It's not about kingdom building, but being collaborative. Share credits. Network wisely. A word about networking. This means participating in things you may not always like the work social events, the charity events, the work sports team, etc. Find something that you can do that showcases your talents outside of the work. That said, I would advise you to be one word of advice. Remember, even in a social setting for one of these networking events, you're still at work. So this is not the time to get blistering junk, twerk, or whatever it is you wouldn't do in front of your boss on a normal day just because it's the Christmas party or the charity event. You are still at work, you're still being watched. And how you behave and show up could go a long way to your next promotion, okay? And so why are these events good? They help introduce you to people who can assist you in your corporate ladder climb. A basic business truth is the more people you know and the more people who like you, the better opportunities you will encounter. The adage is true, your network equals your net worth. So remember that. You're looking for people who can help you succeed in your career. The right people can inspire you to grow and they can exchange, you can exchange ideas with them. It's about finding your village. You could even decide to join something like Toastmasters or some kind of local networking club that hosts breakfasts or webinars as a way of interacting with other people. I'll tell you from my business as a coach, the majority of my work that comes to me from my network. The majority of the time. Sometimes people will find me off of LinkedIn, but most of the time it's somebody who I've interacted with and I've nurtured a relationship with that says, oh yeah, we have this opportunity, let's call in Duwa. And then keep a record of your own achievements. This is so big. Have a highlight reel, whether it's in paper or it's a digital file, because you will forget them. And I say this as an almost 50-year-old who sometimes, I actually was just talking to Lennox about this. When I saw the poster he did for this masterclass, I was like, oh yeah, I did that. And you know, it's so important to have these things written down. Why are they important? Well, one of the reasons is you can use this to justify a promotion from your boss. You can use this when you're moving to another job. And these achievements should be measurable, they should be quantifiable, and they should be things that are keeping you focused on your bigger goal, okay? So it's so important. Don't think that, oh, I've done such good work, somebody's gonna notice. There's too much going on. You've got to keep track of what it is you're doing. And that highlight reel is a huge basis for your negotiation, whether it's negotiation for your pay rise, whether it's negotiation for a new pay, wherever you're going, whether it's negotiation for better hours, whatever you're trying to negotiate for, that highlight reel will help. There's some good tracking apps, by the way, like Goals on Track or Life Tick. Those are some of the things you can look at to use. So now that you're moving up the corporate ladder, there's something I want to talk about, which is soft skills. You're going to learn a lot of quote unquote hard skills or technical skills, but soft skills are the essential skills that we have that help us to communicate with others. And these can be learned or they can be inborn. If you don't know them, you're gonna have to practice and seek opportunities for it, such as somebody who's an introvert or not really a people person can learn to interact with others in ways that's comfortable for them. Soft skills rely on empathy and they rely on emotional intelligence. This is about self-awareness, social awareness, and relationship management. So as I said, these are the personal attributes that allow us to relate to others and lead to greater job performance and satisfaction. Soft skills will be things like self-confidence, communication, Within communication, there's assertiveness. There's also learning to have critical conversations. There's negotiation, which could be looked at as advocating for yourself. And as we say in a organization that I mentor for, negotiation is advocating for yourself and advocating for others as well. There are many different parts of soft skills. The thing I'll say about soft skills is you may not be able to articulate what's a soft skill, but you definitely know when somebody doesn't have one, when somebody's not using one. It's glaring that this person doesn't have tact. You may feel like the person doesn't have tact. Their tone of voice rubs me the wrong way, you know, that type of thing. Those are the soft skills that you have to learn to be able to use to communicate in the corporate world. So a large part of self-confidence will be knowing who you are, which is your values, and what you bring to the table, which is your strengths. So to get ahead, you're going to have to learn to be a master communicator. Communication is often overlooked as a soft skill. And remember, it's not just about what you say, it's about how you say it and when you say it. Tone, body language are all important. And over 70% of communication is nonverbal. So you're going to have to start noticing how people speak. So think of it this way. You're in a meeting. You've just had a heated conversation. You ask somebody, are you okay with, you know, the conversation that we had? Somebody may say to you, yeah, I'm fine. I'm all right. I understand where you're coming from. You can believe what they're saying. Another person, you can say, you know, and their body language is telling you they're all right. You are all right. However, you may ask the next person, are you okay? And they may say, yeah, it's fine. I don't care. You know, it's fine. It's fine. It's great. Right there, that body language, the arms crossed, the tone of voice, the pulling back shows you that they're not okay. So as leaders and as master communicators, you're going to have to learn to read in between the lines. This is always very important for climbing the corporate ladder because there's a lot of politics that's going on. So whatever somebody is saying, you've got to match it with whatever they're doing. And yeah, so the next thing I wanted to talk about was your values and strengths. As I said earlier, this is about who you are and what you bring to the table. In conjunction with this talk, you will be sent a workbook on how you can decipher your values and your strengths, because this is a very important, oh goodness, it took away one of my pictures. Okay, I'll move forward. I'll continue talking about values and strength, but I'm going to explain them to you. So values are basically what is important to you, okay? Why should we know our values? Because values are used for decision making. Values are the litmus test by which by which we judge everything that we do. Whether you're doing it consciously or unconsciously, your values are important. You will have work values, you will have life values, and sometimes they overlap. And it's so important because when you are not living in line with your values, then there's kind of a cognitive dissonance. And that break between what you believe in and how you're living often is a huge cause for unhappiness. So you got to know what is important to you and start making that the basis for how you make decisions, like what job you take, whether this promotion is good for you. I know in my coaching space, I often speak to people and they're like, this is amazing promotion. I'm going to get this much money and whatever. But, and I'm like, but what? But I'll have to be away from my family for a year, or I'll have to do X, Y, Z. So then when we look at their values and they say that, you know, my children are small, so being there to put them in bed every night is so important, then we have to see, okay, if that's one of your guiding values, but you're saying you want to take this job, how are you going to reconcile them? And sometimes, you know, that's looking at and changing how, or going back to the drawing board and negotiating with the person. That's sometimes walking away. That's sometimes saying, I'm willing to make the sacrifice because I'm actually doing it for these children. So that's where values are important. Strengths about knowing what you are good at, whether it's the natural thing that you're good at, or it's something that you've learned to be good at, okay? It's about understanding what you bring to the table. Knowing your strengths is very important for negotiation. And sometimes when I'm working with clients and we're talking about strengths, it's amazing to see how they don't even see some things as strengths. So some of the things like your strengths, you may not notice as a strength, but it definitely is a strength. And that's important for you to know. So after talking about values and strengths, I'll go to work-life balance. Work-life balance is important. You need to identify factors that are important in your career, okay? And especially this is important because you don't want to sell your soul. You got to look at the importance of boundaries. Working all the time is not healthy. And for many of you, a traditional lifelong career is no longer attainable or even desirable, okay? Identify your non-negotiable career breakers. Gone are the days of taking a job just because, it's a job, or entering careers just because they're stable. The ones, medicine, law, etc. Gone are the days of just taking something because that will be how you make money. You now want fulfillment, and especially because, and enjoyment, because work is going to take up 1/3 of your day. Be clear about how the job connects with your values. So most of us would not just take any old spouse. So why would we think it's okay to take any old job? Look at it that way, Ensure you are able to showcase and build on your strengths, okay? It's no use taking a job that does not serve you in any way, does not show what you're good at. I'm not saying that you can't take a job if you're a little bit weak at something. No, you can leverage your weaknesses against your strengths, but it's still important to be doing something that lines up with what you're good at. It doesn't make any sense to go into a job where it's just an uphill battle all day. And then make other parts of your life a priority as well. One of the things I coach from is the Wheel of Life. You can Google it. And the Wheel of Life is usually about 12 different parts of a wheel. And it's like a pie. And this is work. There's work and career. There's spirituality. There's exercise. There's food. There's family. There's friends. There's your partner. All of these are what really makes up your life, not just work. So if you want to climb the corporate ladder, you're going to need to find some kind of work-life balance. So I would advise that you look at the Wheel of Life and see where are you in each place and what it will take to go up 1 or 2 steps. The final thing that I want to say is rejection is sometimes redirection. So what do I mean by that? What happens when you fail? Notice I didn't say what happens if you fail. I said what happens when you fail. It will happen. What you got to do, I told you about me opening a newspaper. The hardest and saddest day of my life was closing that said newspaper. I took a hit with emotionally, I really did, for a lot of years after I had to close down my newspaper. Life happens, failure will happen. Take what you can from it. So what happens what do you do when it happens? Refer back to the bigger picture. Remember the end goal, your overarching vision. Go back to your support network, to the people, the village that's around you. And when necessary, be flexible and agile enough to adjust your plans. Because failure in one thing doesn't mean it's the end. So that's the end of my talk today. These are my references to show you I didn't make this up off the top of my head. And I thank you so much for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Duwa. I really appreciate your time and also sharing what I found to be very interesting. I must say we got a few comments as you were speaking in the time that you're speaking. I'm just going to read them out quickly. Perhaps the first question I got here was around how universities can support their alumni to get work if they're struggling to get work.
I think basically it's like I was saying, is understanding the marketplace right now and understanding the changes. So I think what happens is people are still looking at the workplace as something where you go linear, where right now movement kind of, you're still going up, but movement goes a little bit differently. It's understanding and adjusting to that and creating, there may be need to create a little bit of extra coursework and or like what we're doing right now, just so that people can understand what the market is like and what they can do to adjust to the market. And I think also there needs to be support, because what I find a lot of times when I deal with people who are considered millennials or Gen Z is they're so used to hearing, oh, you guys, you don't do things right, rather than realizing what is being done right and supporting that. So there needs to be the support, there needs to be the adjustment in how we are preparing people for the workplace, because the workplace is not the same landscape as it was.
Yeah, that's true. And I think one of the, I guess, a myth is that a lot of institutions, like high institutions, the main focus really is to create knowledge and to prepare you for the job market. So a big focus sometimes is largely on work readiness, which ACN does a lot of, which sometimes is interlinked with, opportunity sharing and stuff like that, which is some of the things that Mastercard Scholars Programs across the continent are getting support by ACN. So that's just a side thought to your comment. Then the next question I got here was around how do you strike the balance between work deadlines and conducting activities on target for the company?
I think, okay, one of the things that I like to look at is called the Eisenhower matrix. And that looks at what is important and urgent, what is urgent but not important, what you can delegate, etc. And I think that's the thing, is kind of understanding what are the big rocks, what has to be done immediately. I think in agile project management, they talk about the should haves, the would be nice to haves, the could haves, that type of things. Is you're going to have to be very shrewd and categorize where things lie. Because if it's not the most urgent or most important thing, then it can wait. Sometimes the thing that's making the most noise, we spend the most time on, but it's not the most urgent. If this thing is due in 3 weeks, but something's due tomorrow, you've got to concentrate on the one that's due tomorrow. So that means constantly looking at your schedule, adjusting. It takes a lot of agility and constant communication with the people, the stakeholders. Even if it's due in 3 weeks, maybe they just every week they need a little update that's saying, yeah, we're still going forward with the project. It's okay. But that doesn't mean, and they may check on you and say, are you okay? And then you panic like, oh, I've got to do it right now. No, if the due date's then, deal with it then.
Yeah, certainly interesting. I think it creates a nice segue into the next question, which is more of an experience, a lived experience from Tebe, who's saying that I find myself in an organization where, because I have University of Pretoria status as an alumni, there is so much expectation from me, not really taking into consideration that this is my first job and I'm still learning how things work. And also just thinking around how can Tebe address this sort of challenge where the expectation is quite high and you really just started off. But I guess your association is like, the University of Pretoria has got trailblazers, so we expect you to do a little more.
Yeah, you got to be kind to yourself. This is your first time up to bat. So you got to be kind with yourself and patient with yourself. And I understand the pressures, and especially coming from such an esteemed institution, there would be a lot of pressure for you to perform. It's going to take a lot of stepping back. And this is the work-life balance part that we were talking about, a lot of stepping back and making sure that you're not overworking yourself in an effort to prove yourself. And I know that sounds easier said than done, but just keep remembering, maybe write somewhere on your thing, be kind and breathe, because this is just the first job. There may be 10 more after this, and so also I would say manage your expectations. And part of that comes from having your bigger goals written out. So if you have your bigger goals of where you want to be, then what is your goal just for this job? Rather than taking on your shoulders everything, what is your job? What do you want to achieve in the next 2 to 5 years at this job? And just concentrate on that. I think that's the kindest thing you can do for yourself. Sorry, Lennox, I think you're still on mute.
Sorry, so the next question is from Aranetwe Allen, who basically said, thank you for that insightful presentation, and asking you to expound on how one can work smart without necessarily pushing very hard, which often results into reduced productivity in the long run, perhaps more of like a marathon runner and not a sprinter.
Yeah, part of that is time management, really. If you're going to work smart, it's time management. Also, a trick that I also tell people is understanding how you work. If you are not a morning person and you have say for when, meetings can be done and stuff like that, and your brain works much better after 10 a.m. rather than 8 a.m., and you're setting the meeting agenda, push it back. Don't kill yourself to impress people. Look and see, when am I most creative? What is my learning style? That's another thing to find out. What is your learning style? How do you take in information? Are you one of those people who takes in information and then you're taking all the data, you've got to process it, and then you're able to make a decision? Or are you one of these people who somebody says, let's do, when you're already running down the street? Understand how you work. That's part of understanding your strengths. And when you know that, then you can position yourself to do things at certain times. Obviously, some jobs, things just have to be done the way they have to be done. Let's be realistic about this. But in as much as what you have control over, take the control according to what works for you. It's okay to do that. Just because this is how everybody did it, if you're still getting results, do it the way that works for you. I actually spoke to a client about that recently, and they were like, I don't like early morning meetings, and they were able to speak to their boss and move the meetings. So try, you never know,
Yeah, sure, does require a bit of courage, isn't it?
It does take a huge amount.
Yeah. Ms. Kasim is asking, how important is personal branding in today's competitive job market, and what steps can individuals take to establish and maintain a strong personal brand?
I think personal branding will always be very important. I think it was important even before we knew what the terminology, before the terminology became unpopular. It was basically, what is this person about? Personal branding is always going to be important, and that comes down to your value system. So your personal brand, you will look disingenuous if your personal brand and is different from your values. It's got to be based on something that your values and your strengths. Your personal brand has got to be based on something. And it's important. It's not the end all be all, I wouldn't say, but it is important that when people look at you and they see you, they know what you're about. Almost immediately, they should be, if that's your personal brand, they should be like, oh, Duwa, okay, women in coaching, women in leadership. If they're not able to decipher that, then you need to work on that. If people don't know what you're about or what you stand for, that's going to be a problem. It may mean you need to go back and understand what you're about and what you stand for. So it does have an importance. Yeah.
Yeah, certainly does. Another question that just came in now is that, what are some effective strategies for advancing one's career in today's rapidly changing job market?
This is like, make this time in your first job what is called your information gathering years. So this means being on top of what are the skills that are needed, what are workplaces looking for, understand the changes in your industry. You should understand all of that. Make sure you are part of an association if you can afford to enter association. Even now, as students or just people who have just graduated, you can join a lot of these associations for a cheaper price. Do it, because they're going to tell you what is changing constantly in your industry. And that's how you advance, because stagnancy is what the word says. If you're not learning and you're not growing in this rapidly changing marketplace, you are going to struggle to advance. So it's so important. That's where I was saying, be an expert at something, learn another skill. Once you understand what your industry, what's important in your industry, start learning that skill, get certifications. Those are all of the things that are going to make you very, very, what's the word I want to say? Very, look good on the marketplace, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. No, thanks for that. Yeah, another one that just came in, Emmanuel, asking, can you speak on accountability? Can you suggest 2 or 3 ways to build accountability in ourselves as individuals as we grow as young professionals?
That's where your village comes into place. Having that sponsor and having that mentor to keep you accountable. I meet with my mentor still now as a mentor. I'm also a mentor, but I meet with my mentor once a month. And we go over what's going on in my life and how it's affecting how I show up as a coach and etc. Also, as a coach, we have things called supervision. So we go in and that's our place to download everything that's going on with us. So you've got to seek ways to hold yourself accountable. One of the ways is, this is why I say, write down that overarching vision. It's not enough to just be like, oh, one day I want to be a CEO. You want to be a CEO of where? When do you want to be a CEO? In the next 5 years, in the next 10 years? Write it down and keep referring back to that, because that's going to be the thing that's going to keep you from going off, on a tangent, which life will go on a tangent, but you've got to find your way back. So write everything down and find people who will hold you accountable as you're holding yourself accountable. But finding those type of people means vulnerability. And I know that's easier said than done, but I'm telling you, it's so helpful. Also, it's not just about somebody above you mentoring, it's also about peer mentoring. Find a peer that, you know what they say in the Bible, iron sharpens iron. Find a peer that you can work with and move forward. And then also hold yourself accountable to your goals by saying, this is what I'm going to achieve. And no matter what, achieve it. It just means doing the work, putting one foot in front of the other, even in the tough times, with your eye on the bigger picture.
Yeah, interesting. So there's another question that Alan posted, which is an interesting one. I guess this one takes place at the water cooler or in the kitchen, at the cafeteria. But basically asking, how do you avoid gossiping with workmates without making them feel like you're ignoring their conversation?
Office politics. Guess what? I'm going to tell you a secret. High school never ends. So you're going to have your mean girls, you're going to have your jocks, you're going to have your whatever, even into the workplace. And that sucks, but it's the truth. You got to play it smart though, because it's a tough one. Water cooler gossip is, you feel like, oh, okay, this is my way of talking with people, but you've got to be very careful because you don't know the impetus and the reasons why those people are gossiping. And especially if they're telling you things that's supposed to be confidential or etc., you do not want to be put in that group of people who cannot be trusted, because that means the next promotion, people will be like, no, we can't give her a bigger job because this is a person who can't be trusted. It's really tough. And I would say avoid it at all costs. And I know that's hard, but there has to, in thinking of work-life balance, one of the things I have to tell you is your work colleagues are not your friends. And that sounds rough, but it's the truth. You can have a work friend, but at the end of the day, everybody's there to do their job. So understanding that means you've got to be very careful how you engage with people. And yes, you're going to have to look for ways to engage with them in a way that's not cold and, pushing them away. But I would really advise run, because you never know the impetus for why somebody is telling you what they're telling you and how they're going to relay it to the next person. Because it would be like, oh, Lennox could tell me something just, privately, and then I can tell it to someone else and be like, I can tell it to Lois and be like, so when Lennox and I were talking, he said, you know, and now Lois is looking at Lennox cross-eyed, like, what is your problem? They're not your friends. They're not your friends and they're not your family. And that is really rough. But at the end of the day, you will find that to be true.
Yeah, true. That delicate balance between transactional side of work and the relational side of work, quite a balance. Next question is from Nelson, who was asking, what are some of the things to consider doing to get an internship as a new graduate, fresh out of college?
To get an internship, I'm thinking back when I was doing that. It's applying. It's really being open. It's finding the type of work you want to do that matches with your values, but being open. And this may mean taking grunt work sometimes. It may mean not doing the most glamorous jobs, but if you can see a segue to what it is you want to do, and you can see how that would work, then I'd say to do this. But I think the person who's probably really much better to talk about this is Dennis, because he recently did this. So Dennis, what say you on that?
Lennox, do you mind just repeating the
Yeah,
question?
sure. The question is basically what one must do to consider doing an internship straight after college, after university.
Okay, yeah, so I would say that I think I won't say that my strategy can or will work for everyone, but I think that when you lay out a plan for yourself, or a grand objective that you want to achieve, you have to kind of map out how you think you're going to achieve it. If you think that you're in an environment where it's okay to focus on studying and go out there and you can easily get an internship or things like that, I think that's fine. But if you think that if you are a Ugandan like me, and when you come home looking for a job, even an internship might be another job itself, you probably want to start looking at different avenues, different resources, portals, opportunities that exist whilst you're still at university, to try and attain some professional experience while you are about to, let's say, leave university. So, and that is kind of the route I took. And there are, I think, different platforms that you can use to achieve that. So that's what I would say about that. I don't think it's a one-size-fits-all. I think the context is important, and also how all of that fits in an individual's brand plans or objectives, or what they want trying to achieve overall. Those are, I think, important considerations. Hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it sure does. And also it's quite dynamic, so there isn't like one way to do it. So I think it's, like you said, like just having the heart and the desire to put yourself out there and have the courage to do that, which is very important. We've run out of time, and there are so many questions that have been coming through, and thank you for all of you for joining. I know that some of you are just knocked off at work, or you might be speaking this in whilst you're still at work. All good. I just want to remind you that at the University of Pretoria, we're working on our alumni chapter. So we want to continue having these conversations. We want to continue supporting you. So I've just put my email address in the chat box in case if you don't have it. I'm happy to share more details around what the alumni chapter will include. Dennis is also pivotal in that process, and we want to include as many of our alumni as possible. Working closely with ACN as well, and Duwa is also here to assist us to see how best we can do that. So I want to thank you all. My email address is in the chat box. I guess though we run out of time, perhaps Lois might want to say a few words just to say goodbye, and Dennis as well. And Duwa, if you have any parting thoughts, you can go ahead.
Thank you, Lennox. Duwa, do you have any parting thoughts before I close off?
Just to say thank you so much for this opportunity to talk with you all. It was a really great time to speak with you, and just keep your eye on the prize. You can do it. And remember, one thing I want to say is your pathway may not look like somebody else's, and that's okay, because not all who wander are lost. Thank you.
Thank you, Duwa. I must say that was such a wholesome masterclass. Like, I know I got so much out of that. And even I think for anyone, like, to just realize why we do what we do and making sure our visions align is such a great reminder. So really appreciate all the knowledge and wisdom you shared with us today. So thank you for making the time. And Lennox, thank you as well. You hosted this wonderfully. Really appreciate it, and really looking forward to the rest of the series. And again, thank you, Dennis, as well. Your story was inspirational for sure, and I'm sure you inspired many on this call as well. So thank you, everyone, for coming through, and enjoy your evening. And
Sorry,
we'll
Lloyd.
be in touch. Yes, Lennox.
Oh, sorry. I just asked our program manager, Dr. Gates, to just say goodbye to everybody as well.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, she's
absolutely.
on the call. Yeah. All right,
brilliant.
Yeah.
Over to them then. Totally, that's fine.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thanks very much. I want to say what a great session. This is our first, and I think we are going to have many of these. And I came in a bit late once I think some of the presentations were done already, but by what I heard from Duwa, this has been great. Thank you so much. And to our alumni, I've been waiting for this moment. I'm so happy that you're here. So anytime now you see Lennox's email, please respond. And I want to see many of you. We had like around 32 participating. Thank you so much. And to our presenters, hopefully we will reach out to you. And we are looking forward to continue working with you. And as I say, I can't say thank you enough. Thank you, Lennox. This was great.
Oh, thank you, Grace. And just as a follow-up, I'll be making sure that I'll send you all the recordings. Ju's got this book as well, which I'll be sending you, as well as I think like a PDF of like a brief of the slides she shared as well. So please expect that in the next couple of days. Lennox?
Yeah, so that's about it. Thanks everybody for joining, and we will be in touch and happy to receive your comments, suggestions on the way forward, and we'll keep you posted on when our next session will happen. So have a lovely evening, and you take care.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.